There's a reason so many people are fascinated by the waters of our world. Over 2/3 of our planet is covered by them. This vast expanse drives us to constantly explore the depths, uncovering the secrets hidden within. Every now and then, a discovery is made that completely shifts our perspective, whether because of its strangeness, mystery, or sheer terror. Join us as we dive into 20 of the most terrifying things ever found by deep-sea divers. Number 20. Underwater Egyptian City. A common thing you're going to hear about when discussing ancient times is that of cities that were on the coasts of countries being sunk. But how were they sunk? While some may believe that it was by the gods, like that of the city of Atlantis, the point in fact is that many of them were done by nature. Whether it be from a tidal wave, an earthquake, or something in between, they would sink in their entirety, and the result was that there are plenty of things to be found within the depths. Heraklion is an Egyptian city that was lost beneath the surface at one point in time, and there are many discoveries still being made there. For example, in 2021, there was a dual discovery of an ancient ship and a burial ground within the city. The ship is called a fast galley, a type of vessel with a large sail that would have been propelled to a relatively high speed by a team of oarsmen. As for how the ship had sunk, it has to do with the sinking city because the ship was next to the Temple of Ammonius, which was being ripped apart by the cataclysm that led to the city sinking. At the site of the sunken city, the archaeology team would discover a burial ground that was in use as far back as 2,400 years ago. The archaeology team found elaborately decorated pottery, including one piece that appears to have images of waves painted on it. There were also pieces of gold that were decorated with images of the gods, a custom used to protect those when they went into the afterlife. What it all shows is that even within the bigger findings, like discovering an underwater city, there are minor finds that can help shape the narrative of what happened and reveal truths of their own. Number 19. The Titanic. While not strange in the overall perspective, it was a massive undertaking to both find and attempt to salvage the remains of the RMS Titanic. To give you some scope, the Titanic was the unsinkable ship that was indeed very sinkable and drowned into the depths in 1912. But it wouldn't be until 1985 that the massive vessel would be discovered again. There had been multiple previous attempts to try and find it, and it would become a collaboration between the United States Navy and the French that would eventually lead to its discovery. When it was discovered at last, it was 13,000 feet below sea level, or at least part of it was. You have to remember that the Titanic actually split in two and then sunk to the depth. Some of its parts sunk much deeper into the ocean's waters and will never be recovered. However, certain parts of it were also brought to the surface, and many artifacts have been shown around the world, which is a somewhat fitting ending for the ship. Number 18. Giant jellyfish. There are plenty of fish in the sea, as they say, but just because there are plenty of them doesn't mean that they're all made equal. That goes both in terms of their capabilities and the size that they are within the depths. If you were to picture a jellyfish, you'd likely think of one that was small but packs a punch, or you may think of one like the lion's mane jellyfish where they're over 100 feet long and thus could seemingly stretch on forever. But what you probably would not say is that they are large in the massive way. Well, in Cornwall in the UK, they found one that can only be described as massive. The species is known as the barrel jellyfish, and it honestly doesn't get too big on the regular. Most agree that they get about 3 feet in length, weighing anywhere around 55 pounds. But the one that they discovered was over 5 feet long and many feet wide. As you can see from the pictures that showcase the jellyfish with the divers, the jellyfish is as long as the divers themselves, and if it wanted to, it could easily engulf them with its body. Thankfully, that was not an option because, despite its massive size, it lacks the punch that other jellyfish have. The divers thankfully knew that, and since they weren't in any danger, they observed the jellyfish for about an hour until it went away. Well, what does this all prove? It just goes to show that sometimes life finds a way to surprise you. Again, the typical barrel jellyfish is about 2 feet shorter than the one they found, so it was definitely a stunner when they came across it. Yet they couldn't help but marvel at the beauty of it. But that doesn't mean that you should just cozy up with any old jellyfish you see in the ocean. Number 17. Christ of the Abyss. Another tradition when it comes to the religions of the world is placing statues of the gods in many places where people could either find them, worship at them, or admire them. We all know of major statues like the one in Rio de Janeiro, but do you know about the one in the depths off of Italy? It's known as Christ of the Abyss. The statue was born from an idea a scuba diver had about putting an installation of a statue of Christ on the seabed, and in 1954, he got his wish. But why did he want that in the first place? Surely there were more simple ways to honor his fallen friend, right? Well, it was to represent Christ in the new world that was below the waves, a memorial for all of those who had lost their lives at sea, and a monument to those who continued to dive beneath it. So, in many ways, it was a tribute to what came before and what would follow. It could also be seen as a symbol that Christ loves all life in the world, whether it be in the sky, on the land, or in the depths of the ocean, which does line up with the Christian teaching after all. He has the whole world in his hands. Remember, What may be stranger than the original statue is the fact that it's been replicated a couple of times and placed in other parts of the world. One such place is in Key Largo, off the coast of Florida. As for the one in Italy, it was taken out of the water in 2003 and then restored to its former glory to compensate for the corrosion that occurred to it over a half-century in the water. Number 16. Giant oarfish. How much does anyone honestly know about the creatures of the deep? Well, it depends on what creatures you're talking about because, in all things, it's hard to know about something if you can't study it. And when it comes to the giant oarfish, they are a true mystery. So rare, in fact, are these creatures to find in the depths that when you do see one, it's typically because it's washed up on the beach. When the first one was discovered in modern times on such a beach, many felt that it was a hoax. But then, fast forward to 2013, and off the coast of California came a giant 18-foot oarfish, and it took a group of 15 adults to pull the fish's massive carcass up the beach to a better viewing area and then, of course, take a picture with it because what else are you supposed to do? The oarfish species remains one of the more mysterious creatures of the deep. They only come to the surface when they're dead, and we have very little information about their behavior and their lives. One of the people who found the giant oarfish was a person at the local Marine Institute, and even they admitted that they'd never seen anything like it in their lives. Now it's time for today's topic. Marine biologist Dr. Ethan Keller was on a routine dive 40 miles off the coast of Durban, South Africa, documenting a century-old shipwreck in July 2025. Equipped with a GoPro and oxygen rig, he descended to 180 feet to capture footage of the deteriorating hull. Visibility was low, typical for winter currents in the region, and all appeared calm, until a sudden change in water pressure made his ears pop. What he didn't realize at the time was that something enormous was just a few feet behind him. Later, when reviewing the footage on the research vessel Blue Echo, the entire team froze. For a brief moment, less than 6 seconds, a dark, massive form entered the frame. It was a shark, but unlike anything in known records. The body shape and eye placement resembled a great white, but it was at least 3 times larger and had unusual skin scarring and a bulkier snout. Keller had unknowingly swum within arm's reach of a creature some are calling a living fossil. The footage has since been turned over to experts at the University of Cape Town. While skeptics suggest digital distortion, marine cryptozoologists argue it may be evidence of a surviving megalodon, or something even stranger. Number 15. $1 million shipwreck. Do you ever have a feeling that something was going to go your way and then you try to act upon it? It's okay if not because it may come for you later. But for Hillary Schmidt, she had one that would allow her family to cash in big. No, they didn't win the lottery, but you could say that they hit the jackpot off the coast of Florida. You see, the family that Hillary's a part of are treasure hunters, and back in 2015, they were off the central Florida's Atlantic coast looking for treasure when they found it. Over the course of the morning, the Schmidt family found 51 gold coins, which included a rare 1715 royal that was intended for the King of Spain, along with a 40-foot gold chain. They were just 1,000 feet off the coast of Fort Pierce in Florida, which isn't that far when you think about it. The treasure came from a Spanish ship that had sunk off the coast about 300 years previous. At the time, many lives perished as it was just not one vessel that was lost, it was an entire fleet. And that's why you hear so many stories about the gold that's found off the coast of Florida due to similar findings in the past. The bounty was worth about $1 million. However, the family was not allowed to keep all of it. Oh, certain laws are in place for treasure hunting, and the government does get its part, and the items themselves will go into a museum. However, the family did get a cut of the pay after the courts were brought in to ensure fairness. And you had better believe that the family is going to listen next time that Hillary has a premonition. Number 14. Underwater river. Depending on how long you've been watching this channel, you may be familiar with the concept of underwater rivers. These are streams of water that go against or alongside the natural flows of larger bodies of water, but they're on their own entity. Usually, there are natural forces at work that will cause these rivers to form in the depths, and divers just love to go and look for them. In the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, you'll find one such place. Divers love to go to it in particular because of the scenery. There's a layer of hydrogen sulfate there that acts as a separator between the main water and the underwater river. There are trees and other greenery within that have fallen from above that make it seem like it's its own little piece of land despite being under the surface. And if you're getting technical with it, the place is called a cenote. Cenotes are actually deep natural pits or sinkholes characteristic of Mexico, resulting from the collapse of limestone bedrock that exposes water currents underneath. And as you know, nature has a way of making things that tends to surprise people. Many divers have tried to describe the feeling of being inside of it and experiencing the cloud within that leads you to the river and other areas. It should also be noted that the place is a bit dangerous due to that cloud, but divers don't seem to mind the risk. When you look at the pictures of it, you'll notice that there's a mystical beauty to it all, as if this place was made in a fantasy land, and yet it's there in the real world. And there are more places like this out there. We have all just yet to find them and not die as we try. Number 13. World War II aircraft carrier. There's a reason that there hasn't been a war as large as World War II. It spanned continents and featured numerous forces going at it on land, sea, and air to take down their foes. The battle on the water was particularly bad during the Battle of the Pacific between the United States and Japan, and at one point the U.S. fleet was almost wiped out by the Japanese. Yet they were able to fight back and take the fight literally to their country. But there were plenty of ships that were down during that epic struggle, and one of them was lost for over 7 decades before being rediscovered. The USS Hornet was mortally wounded in a Japanese onslaught during the Battle of Santa Cruz Islands. It carried 2,200 crew, 140 of whom were lost on that day. It wouldn't be until 2019 that it was found again. What's more, when it was found, it was off the Solomon Islands and was 17,000 feet below sea level. Talk about a deep dive. It was not an easy thing to discover. The team who rediscovered it had to use charts and testimony from other vessels that saw it and slowly search for the ship. And it should be noted that while it did go down in a fight, it also helped to save the war in the Pacific, as it was likely a key vessel during the Battle of Midway, which many agree was the turning point for the United States. Number 12. Train graveyard. Now, if I were to say that we're going to a train graveyard, you might think that we'd be on land in order to get there. But that's not the case, because off the coast of New Jersey, of all places, lies a set of locomotives that have been in the deep since possibly even the 1850s. And what's more, they're very rare ones that have been submerged into the depths. But that goes to beg the question, why are they there? Well, that's where the mystery comes in, and nobody actually knows how or where they came from and how they ended up underwater. Despite being able to tell which locomotives they are, there are actually no records of them ever being built, which is very odd. Most would agree that the locomotives were likely being carried to New Jersey or a place that was close to it via a barge or another large ship. The vessel was likely caught in a storm and, as a result, was eventually lost at sea. Now, some even think that the crew might have gotten rid of them in an attempt to save the ship. We may never know for sure, and thus the mystery simply continues. Number 11. Apollo 11 engines. When it comes to history, there are many items that many of us wish we still had access to or had not lost in the first place. Items that are part of legendary moments or events in our lives. For example, the Apollo 11 mission was the mission that sent man to the moon for the first time, and naturally, as part of its launch, the engines were eventually blasted off and then lost into the depths. That is, until 2012, when they were found by Jeff Bezos. He led the search that took him 14,000 feet below the surface, and once they were found, they were identified as the original engines and were soon put on display for everyone to see. Now, while you may not like Jeff Bezos for his business practices, you have to respect him for finding a piece of history and then not selling it to the highest bidder. Number 10. The Yonaguni Monument. Sometimes a discovery is strange because we don't really know what it is or how it got there, but in the case of the Yonaguni Monument, it's strange because no one can agree on what it is or what it's not. The site of the Yonaguni Monument was found in 1987 off the coast of Japan and was actually discovered by accident. And even since then, there have been major debates about what it is, where it came from, and how it was created. Many believe that it's over 10,000 years old and possibly was made by an ancient civilization before being sunk to the depth. However, just as many people feel that it's a natural construction of the ocean and nothing more. So what exactly is the truth? Well, the truth here is actually unknown. There's too much evidence on both sides to easily dismiss one or the other, and as such, it seems like it will remain a nice tourist attraction and be debatable until more is known about it. Number 9. Underwater cave. Now, at first, hearing that someone found an underwater cave might not sound impressive. After all, why wouldn't there be caves underwater when there are plenty of them on the surface? But the reason these caves are so special is that many times they are untouched by humanity and can reveal new life, or you can find out that these caves were used by humans at one time, which includes being used by an ancient culture. In Mexico, 216 miles of subterranean caverns were discovered in 2018, and if you think about that, that's not just a few miles of caverns, it was hundreds of miles that needed to be explored. What made the discovery even more astonishing was the sheer diversity of artifacts found within the caves, including pottery, tools, and even ancient altars that hinted at ritualistic practices. The caves also contained fossils of extinct animals, such as giant sloths and saber-toothed cats, offering a glimpse into a prehistoric world. Some of the chambers were so vast and intricate that divers described them as underwater cathedrals, with stalactites and stalagmites creating an otherworldly atmosphere. The conditions in the caves, with their low oxygen levels and stable temperatures, helped preserve these treasures for thousands of years. When archaeologists got the ability to look into the caves, they found that there were sites that tied back to the ancient Mayans. Among the finds, the diverse uncovered human remains, which included skeletons and seemingly burnt human bones that were at least 9,000 years old. That would suggest human activity as far back as 9,000 years in the eastern Mexican region, thousands of years earlier than any researchers had thought possible, as part of an ancient Mayan trade route. So you see, caves are very important, especially when they're found underwater. Number 8. Time capsule ship. How about another ship that's shockingly preserved? Maritime archaeologists in northern Germany discovered the wreckage of a 400-year-old cargo ship that sank almost standing in August of last year. The reason that this one was a time capsule was that the creatures that usually ravaged such ships, including worms, were not present. Adding to the intrigue, the ship's wooden beams and planks were found to be in near pristine condition, with tool marks from its original construction still visible. Inside the barrels, researchers also uncovered traces of lime and other building materials, offering a rare glimpse into the trade practices of the Hanseatic League. The ship's design itself was a marvel, showcasing the advanced shipbuilding techniques of the time, which allowed it to carry heavy cargo across treacherous waters. Even the ship's anchor was found nearby, perfectly preserved, as if waiting for its next voyage. What's more, there were barrels that were full of materials that helped to showcase how it was a transporter of materials for stone building. The vessel was from the Hanseatic period, when a group of northern European trade guilds dominated the Baltic and North Seas from the 13th to the 17th centuries. So why was this one so well preserved when others usually rotted away? Well, apparently, a layer of mud covered the ship soon after it sank, and that would help it to stay intact for so long. Sometimes it's just better to be lucky than it is to be good. Number 7. Lion City. The Lion City is honestly one of the more iconic entries on this list because it's an underwater city that was placed there by man. No, they didn't build the city underwater, that would be Atlantis or so we're all told. Rather, the Lion City was once the head of a mighty Chinese empire from 25 AD to 200 AD. Even after the empire fell, it was one of the most important cities in Greater China for many centuries. What makes the Lion City so fascinating is how well preserved it is beneath the water, with its intricate stone carvings, arches, and statues still intact. The cold, still waters of Qingdao Lake have acted as a natural time capsule, protecting the city from erosion and decay. Divers who have explored the site describe it as stepping into a lost world, with its ancient architecture frozen in time. It's even been called the Atlantis of the East, a title that only adds to its mystique and allure. So how does such a prominent city get drowned? Well, it's simple. The Chinese government sunk it on purpose. They sunk the city in order to complete a hydroelectric and river dam in 1959, and it was sunk so thoroughly that people actually forgot it was there until about 2009 when it was rediscovered. And now, people can go see it for themselves via diving. Number 6. Russian submarine. Now, finally, we have the tale of a Russian submarine that was sank off the coast of Sweden back in 1916. The submarine had an unfortunate collision with a mail ship, believe it or not, and then it sank to the depths. Fast forward to 2016, and a pair of divers were able to find the submarine and began to explore and salvage it. What made the discovery even more remarkable was how well preserved the submarine was, with many of its features still intact despite being underwater for a century. The divers noted that the cold, low-oxygen waters of the Baltic Sea likely played a role in keeping the vessel in such good condition. Inside, they found remnants of personal belongings, giving a haunting glimpse into the lives of the crew who perished. The submarine itself was a rare model, adding historical significance to the find and sparking interest among naval historians. Their big catch at the beginning was a compass that was on board the vessel. The only problem with the discovery was that the Russians wanted their ship back, both to salvage it and to help bring the bodies of those who were lost on board back to their home country. That's not really the biggest ask in the world if I'm being honest, but even still, it's strange to find that sub in Sweden and even stranger how it went down. That's all from the realms of the deep and what's been found within it by divers. Number 5. The Antikythera mechanism. Next up, we have an all-time classic strange find, the Antikythera mechanism, which is an analog computer that was found in a shipwreck in 1901 near the island of Antikythera. The term computer is used lightly here, as it's obviously not electronic, hence why I said analog. However, it was also a device that was able to calculate certain things, which included being able to chart the movements of the sun, the stars, the moon, and even the planets. What's even more fascinating is the sheer complexity of its design, with over 30 intricate bronze gears working in perfect harmony. It's believed to have been created around 100 BCE, yet its precision rivals some modern mechanical devices. Some researchers have even called it the world's first astronomical clock, a testament to the ingenuity of its creators. The fact that it was found in a shipwreck also raises questions. Was it a common tool for sailors, or was it a rare, prized possession meant for someone of great importance? That would help the sailors of the ship not only to make their way through the waters but to know when major events like eclipses were going to happen. But the mystery here is how the Greeks knew how to make such a thing. It was very well built before the idea of computers had ever come about, yet it clearly worked. Sometimes the ancients just knew how to make things better than anyone in the modern times. Number 4. Sea monster. In 2015, a figurehead from a 15th century ship was brought to the surface after spending over 500 years at the bottom of the Baltic Sea. The sea monster was in quite good shape despite being down there for so long. The creature depicted on it has lion ears and a crocodile mouth, holding what might be the figure of a person, which is a bit terrifying. Experts believe it may have been designed to ward off evil spirits or intimidate enemies, a fierce guardian for the ship it once adorned. Its intricate details, from the sharp teeth to the flowing mane, suggest it was crafted by a highly skilled artisan, someone who likely poured their imagination and fears into the design. The figurehead's preservation is remarkable, with even the smallest carvings still visible, hinting at the quality of the wood and the conditions of the seabed. Some historians speculate it could represent a mythical creature from medieval folklore, a blend of real and imagined beasts that symbolize the unknown dangers of the sea. What you may be the most surprised by is that this sea monster is heavy and weighs 660 pounds. What's also shocking is that the thing appears to be one of a kind, and by that, I mean how the person who discovered it noted that no other carving was similar to this one. Perhaps it was just a special meaning to the maker of the ship, but we may never know. Number 3. Bai. Now, you may think that having a party city like Las Vegas is a very modern concept, but it's not, because in ancient Rome they had one known as Bai. It was a place where the rich and powerful went to have fun like only the Romans could. They would have lots of parties, drink lots of wine, and connect with each other, if you get my drift. The city was also known for its luxurious villas, thermal baths, and elaborate architecture, which showcased the wealth and extravagance of its visitors. Many of the Roman elite, including emperors like Nero and Caligula, were said to have frequented Bai, adding to its reputation as a hub of decadence. It was even rumored that secret political deals and scandals unfolded within its lavish halls. The volcanic soil in the area also made it a prime location for constructing opulent estates, as the natural hot springs were believed to have healing properties. It was one of the premier spots for the Roman Empire under Julius Caesar and subsequent emperors to come. So why don't people go there today? Well, they can if they have a diving suit. Volcanic activity has been the cause of its sinking, and though it was eventually rediscovered, it's not a party town anymore. Number 2. 500-year-old Renaissance ship. Another shipwreck, but with a few fun twists. Back in 2009, a ship would be discovered within the Baltic Sea near Sweden. It was found during a special sonar scan and was said to be 500 years old, likely from the same period as the Renaissance. But what really surprised people was how well preserved it was, given the waters of the world and the creatures that live within. Experts noted that even the wooden planks of the ship were intact, with some of the original carvings and details still visible. This level of preservation is almost unheard of, making it a rare and invaluable find for maritime archaeologists. Additionally, some of the cargo on board was still sealed, offering a unique glimpse into the trade and daily life of the time. The discovery has sparked curiosity about the ship's origins, its purpose, and the events that led to its sinking. It's almost natural that ships and other items get eroded over time, but this one was very well preserved, and it's really unclear as to why. The biggest guess was that the area had low oxygen and thus kept the creatures away. There was no identification on the ship when it was found, but that's not going to stop anyone from trying to learn everything that they can about it. Number 1. Underwater Museum. I'm sure that many of you have ideas about what it can mean, and this time I'm almost being literal. This museum is located off the coast of Mexico's Riviera Maya, and it's the world's largest underwater museum. But by museum, I don't mean that there's a building underwater with items inside of it. The art pieces themselves are within the depths of the water, and they're there for divers to come and see when they have the time. The sculptures, created by artist Jason DeCaires-Taylor, are designed to promote coral growth, blending art with marine conservation. Over time, these sculptures have become artificial reefs, attracting a variety of marine life and creating a thriving underwater ecosystem. Divers often describe the experience as surreal, as if stepping into a submerged art gallery teeming with life. The museum also serves as a reminder of the delicate balance between human activity and nature, encouraging visitors to reflect on their impact on the environment. There are actually over 500 sculptures within this museum, making it quite a sight. And ironically, it was built to deter people from checking out the local reefs and potentially damaging them. But what a noble endeavor. Which of these discoveries do you think is the strangest? Do you believe there are still countless treasures and mysteries waiting to be uncovered out there? Are there any other finds you think should have made it onto this list? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to check out other fascinating content popping up on your screen, and I'll catch you next time.